20 million people globally depend on trash dumps for their survival.
Walk us through that. What's difficult about being executive director?
We address issues of nutrition. We get to assist with medical services.
Send this kid from the trash dump to college. Yes, please take my money.
Or Trash Mountain Project. We're really asking for somebody else.
This podcast is brought to you by Washburn University, a tight-knit college in a city of opportunity.
Washburn offers small classes and big experiences. It's public, prestigious, and has the lowest student debt in the state.
Above all, Washburn delivers a personalized education that you won't find at larger schools.
Learn more at washburn.edu.
All right, Dave Henry with the Trash Mountain Project, TNP for those that are in the know, Executive Director. Thanks for joining us today on Topeka
Come
Insider.
on, man. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about you. Are you from Topeka? How did you get into the role that you're in now? Yeah, tell us a little bit about Dave.
Yeah, so I have family around Topeka, but I've actually never lived here myself. I was a pastor in Salina for about 20 years, and so kind of from the mid-20s, early 20s to mid-40s, my age. And about 10 years ago, I got involved with Trash Mountain Project, and I got involved with Manhattan Christian College, and made a transition out of local church ministry into doing both of those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and teaching at the school and doing...
Yeah. So I'm a professor of theology, pastoral ministry at Manhattan Christian.
Still?
And okay. Yeah, I just finished class and went straight to my car and came.
Let's go. Come on now.
And then I work also with Trash Mountain Project here in Topeka. So I work remotely, but I'm here in Topeka all the time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. Tell us about Trash Mountain. What is that?
So Trash Mountain is a really unique ministry that focuses, it's Christian-based, and it focuses on really the human side, the humanitarian side of the struggle that people have who live around the perimeter of trash dumps globally. And so here in the U.S., we don't have that because of really good government regulations that prevent people from building their homes right up on the edges. But in developing countries, you see it all over the world. I mean, it really is a global problem. I was reading something recently, and somebody that had researched, they were actually researching global trash and the recycling industry, but they had a couple chapters in their book dealing with the human side, where they did the research of how many countries have this and how many people. And this journalist said that the estimation was around 20 million people globally depend on trash dumps for their survival.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a joke. And I've been looking for a number. We at TNP had been looking for a number for years, and we were always trying to estimate it or extrapolate from what we knew.
Right.
And when I read that, and it was a research-based book, I read that, and I was like, there it is. That's the number.
So people living inside of or on the edges of trash dumps, trash mountains.
Yeah, so they're typically living on the perimeters. Wow. And most of these dumps aren't fenced and, that kind of a thing. They live around the perimeters. Typically, sometimes they'll end up in the dump because the dump, because of its growth, will encroach into their neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. But they're right on the edges of them, and in some way they're dependent on the trash. And so most of the time they're picking recyclables, and then they're selling them to a middleman, who then is selling it to the recycling industry.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so they're just picking trash to live because where they are and, different things that they lack in life, this is their option. And so that's what they do.
That's
I have
wild.
a hard time I feel like I'm just so far, we all are, but so far removed from that problem that I have a hard time almost even empathizing with it because I just don't understand it.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. And so for me, I didn't even realize when I was in college, I went on this mission trip and was working with an orphanage just across the border into Mexico. And at the end of our project, we took a bunch of trash to the dump, and I'm 20 or something, and we were unloading it. All of a sudden, there were local people around us, and I'm like, where'd they come from, right? And they were suddenly there, and I asked the people I was working with, and they were like, oh, they live here. And so at 20, I'm like, what?
Yeah. Wow.
And then it literally was 20 years later to the year where I heard about Trash Mountain Project and thought, okay, now, this thing had been kind of sitting in the back of my head, kind of as a memory, but, every once in a while it'd still pop up. And then 20 years later, somebody let me know about TNP, and I was like, okay, now there's somebody doing something about this thing that I saw once.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So what does Trash Mountain do to help people in those environments?
Yeah. So what we do is we're U.S. based. All of our U.S. staff, we don't send anybody into other countries. All of our U.S. staff is here. And it's just a staff of 4 right now here in Topeka. But we work in 5 different countries, and we're in 17 different trash dump communities in those 5 countries. And what we do is we find partnerships with people who are locals who are already doing something typically. I think we have one exception where we helped initiate it, but where they're already doing something for the people in these communities. And then we come alongside of them and just say, hey, how can we help you do what you do better? And so these are all faith-based, Christian-based connections. And they're dealing with both, the spiritual component of just humanity,
right,
but also dealing with the daily physical struggles, healthcare and food access and access to education and all of these kinds of things. And so we visit these places, but it's the people in the countries who are doing the ministry that are leading these ministries.
Right.
And then we're coming alongside saying, hey, where do we match up and where can we help you do that thing better?
Yeah, that makes sense. What made, I guess, your predecessor, but you're still kind of carrying that baton. What made you guys go that approach rather than just like, hey, we're going to go start something ourselves?
Yeah, he, and I'll tell his story as he told me, because this is about 4 years before I got involved with TMP. It started in 2009, and he was working as an associate pastor at a church in Florida and went down, was exploring some different ministries that he could connect with and get his the college ministry that at his church connected to. And he found this one in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, and was working there and really felt conviction to go home and resign his job and move down there and work. And the guy there said, oh, that's really not the best thing you can do. The best
guy
thing,
in Honduras told him
he said
okay.
The best thing you could do is help us get access to these things that we don't have access to.
Wow.
And I think that was kind of that push for him to go, okay, I need to think about this differently.
Right.
And we found through the years that, to put a person in a culture that they're not part of, you have years of adjusting to even understand what's happening around you.
Yeah.
And so we can come into these places and connect with people who've been doing the work.
Yeah.
And we go, what do you do? What do you know?
Right.
And the ability to really connect and make some difference is pretty fast.
Is there a, I guess I'm just thinking practically, is there a language barrier that makes it tough? Do you guys are they speaking English, your connections down there, or what does that look like?
So it depends on our country. So 5 different countries, 2 of them are Spanish-speaking countries, and one of our 4 U.S. staff people, she's over Spanish-speaking countries and is fluent in Spanish. Nice. And the other 3 countries, 2 of them, English is easy, very accessible. Most everybody speaks it and understands it. One of the countries, the leadership speaks English, and some people do. So it's functional.
Sure.
And so where it needs to be translated, our international partners are just able to do that for us.
I mean, I kind of think that you have 4 full-time staff for TPM, but you really have a staff, that are on the ground. They're not your staff, that's your partners, but it kind of feels like it's an extension of you guys to some extent, especially for donors or people who are supporting. It's like, that's kind of your boots on the ground. That's really cool. Yeah.
If you look at it and count it up, I mean, I don't have an actual number, but his numbers change on those, in those sites, but it's really dozens and dozens of people doing the ministry, and most of them don't know each other because they're all spread out in different communities and different countries and things like that. And so TNP really becomes kind of this unifying spot for this network of activity.
Wow. So what are the 5 countries?
So I can tell you 4.
Okay.
The 5th country, it's a safety issue.
Sure.
So I won't say the name of that country. Yeah. But we are in Honduras, Dominican Republic, Philippines, and Kenya, and then an additional country in Southeast Asia.
Okay. Yeah. So what kinds of things is Trash Mountain Project doing to support? I imagine you're probably doing some fundraising. Are you getting supplies and sending? Are you doing training for the organizations? What all are you guys doing to make them more effective?
Yeah, through the years, we've done a lot of things. When I came on, we were I came on doing discipleship, which meant I was working with our international partners and really just making sure that they were okay, the ones that were leading in each of these countries and each of these sites, and which is a really critical part of this whole thing,
right?
Because it's their life, and it's what they do occupationally, but they care about it deeply because very few people are going to work in these communities unless they have a deep love for the people, because they're hard places, really, really hard places to work. And so, we do that, a lot of support for the people that we work with internationally. We address issues of nutrition. In a couple of places, we get to assist with like medical access to medical services. And, occasionally we'll take doctors and nurses and dentists from the U.S. there. That works in a couple places. In some other places, it's too far and it's too complicated.
Sure, yeah.
So we're supporting that local Christian body that's there to make sure that they're just on the daily living this thing out and really being supportive of the broader community. The thing that we have found though, and this is something I think that came out of this, I'll say came out of this COVID era that, that we've just been through. We found that when everything got really hard and a lot of funding that they were receiving from other organizations kind of dried up on them, and TMP was really able to hang in there well. I mean, we had to make some revisions, but we were really able to hang in there well with all of our partners. But what they all did when they kind of lost some of their other funding and things got really tight, every single country prioritized childhood education. That's like they said, we'll drop almost everything else, but we don't drop that.
Right.
And they're not connected with each other. I mean, that is the conclusion that they all came to independently, because what they found is that's one of the biggest things that inhibits job access later on in life. And so we've seen, we've had some people we've been able to scholarship that are now grown up, or these ministries did that even before we were connected to them. And they see this tremendous difference that makes in the long term to where these are now young adults who are pouring back into their communities, doing things to, and so there's this cyclical thing that they have all understood is a long-term, long play kind of solution.
Makes sense. I mean, if you're a nation, the one thing you can't give up on is raising up the next generation who's going to be the future of your nation. You cut that off, you're shooting yourself in the foot in a pretty big way,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And so you have all these kids in these dump communities that, just potential that any kids have. Yeah. And, but you limit the availability. Yeah. And so then it's just like you're saying, you just cut that off.
Yeah.
So what's the goal of TMP?
Dude, that's exactly what I was about to ask.
Is it because, I mean, with 20 million people living amongst trash dumps, I mean, that's a big task to take on. I mean, you're in 5 countries now. Is there a goal to get to more? Or are you just focusing on the ones you're at, or what's the next 5 years look like?
Yeah, I would say the next 5 years, I don't see us really getting too much outside of the 5 countries we're in, because, we've really developed great partnerships there. And in each of these countries, there's many more communities we could work at. And so from just like a networking standpoint, I think we're going to be in the 5 countries. I could see us developing quite a few more communities. And eventually we'll get out beyond that. Sure. But I would say in the next 5, probably still in the 5 years, probably still in those 5 countries, maybe one more, but hopefully, a dozen more communities, that type kind of a thing. And so really the goal of what we do, our mission statement is to create Christ-centered environments for children and families living in trash dump communities worldwide. We want the local people, we want the local Christians and these local leaders to live it out the best they can. And I truly believe this, that when they do that, it makes a cultural difference. It makes a difference to people's economics and community and their social networks and all of it. And so, where we could look at it and say, we're not an educational organization. We really want these communities to be fostered and grow and develop and be strong. And they are each saying, hey, these are the things that work as an expression of our communities. Wow. And so it's pretty fun, actually, to just sit back and watch these these communities start to flourish. And, we have one or two of them that you look at and you're like, that's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah.
When you see them starting to mature.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was going to ask, you were asking 30,000 foot view. I was going to go same question, but more on the ground. What's your goal for like a specific person, who's living in or around the trash dump? Like, and is there like a process? So actually, it sounds like what you just said. It sounds like what you're saying is your goal is not necessarily just like, hey, we want to like somehow get the resources in the hands of a person so they can move, or, maybe get them some financial training so that they can just move. Your goal is really to like see a kind of a church community develop in a fully flourishing way.
Right.
And that in and of itself will lead to a lot of those things in a person's life. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, you said it really well. You kind of look at it and you think, well, you want to move everybody out.
Right.
But the reality is that's their people. Mm-hmm. That's their culture. This is their family and all those connections. And I'm not sure it's always the best thing in the world to say we're going to rescue you away from that thing,
right?
And so what we found is some of our young adults who are, in the Philippines, we have people who are a guy who's an architect and a guy who is a civil engineer now, and people going to school for business and all these kinds of things. And what we're finding is some of them are moving back into that community, even though financially they don't have to, because that's their people. This is my network of people, and they're pouring back in now. And so the civil engineer and the architect are both working in this community, and
wow.
They're talking about, how do we build homes that are safer and can withstand storms and have concrete floors instead of dirt and deal with, sanitation and sewer and water. I mean, they're literally now like wanting this community to develop into something that's more beneficial. And so, you could look at it and say, is the goal to move everybody away? I think there are instances where getting away is probably the right thing. But a lot of times it's about transformation. I think most of the time it's about transformation of what's there.
Right. That reminds me of the book When Helping Hurts.
Yeah.
I was just like, it's easy for me to come in and I can, come up with my own goals and ideas of what you really need. And sometimes maybe help you get the things that I think you need, when in reality, maybe the long term that didn't help you as much as I thought, and it's like, hey, we're after something much more thorough and long term, so it's cool. It's awesome, man. Is the Philippines the one that you're not supposed to say?
No, I can say Philippines.
Oh, okay. I was like, I wonder if he's
well, you
accidentally
just said it, John. So
no, Philippines is good. It's another country.
I was just like, hey man, he can edit that out if we need.
If you want to start just rattling off all the countries and look at his eyes.
No, I just when you said, I was like, I think that's in Southeast Asia, right? Like, is that the one he's not supposed to say?
Yeah, it is also. Yeah, whenever I leave the one out, I always leave it for last so that I make sure I leave it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
He said, "Is it the Philippines?"
Well, he said it. I was like, I want to make sure we didn't need to edit it out.
That's funny.
That's it.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about being an executive director. And I think your role is maybe even more unique than some, because as an executive director of a nonprofit, as someone who's not familiar with that world, I think, hey, you're boots on the ground. You're working with people, you're leading the teams, but you're not doing that. You're managing your team from here and kind of orchestrating. Walk us through that. What's difficult about being an executive director?
So, I'm still learning it. And in some ways, being an executive director of a nonprofit I was a lead pastor for 20 years, and there's a whole lot of overlap between those two things. There's a lot of the roles that you get in and things you have to learn and do. What makes this really workable for me in a really, really good way is and I genuinely mean this, I have a really great team of people here. And so I coordinate things. I think I lead in vision and execution of the vision. I'm the primary fundraiser, kind of primary contact. But then we have people. We have a person that works with our donors. We have a person that's over our Spanish-speaking countries. We have a person that's over all of our finance and things, and which are things then that I just kind of have to know about and keep some real general sense of. So for me, I'm really a fundraiser, kind of vision caster, and like, how do we walk this thing out?
What's the name? Gosh, I wish I knew this. What's the name of your guys' fundraising event that you put on here?
Spoken.
That's what it is. I've heard really good things about that event.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I heard it's awesome. Never been asked for money.
Well, you were invited. We're having it again
there we go.
this year.
I've been invited.
I've never been invited.
That's awesome.
Man, I love it. So what have been some of the highs and lows of how it's been 10 years now?
10 years as an employee and a couple years as a volunteer.
What's been just the really exciting parts? You wake up, man, this is why I get to do what I do. And what are some of the biggest, not fun parts of what you get to do?
What days do you think about quitting?
Yeah.
I'm going to be really honest. I have never thought about quitting TMP.
Come on.
I have had other roles where you're like, man, somebody else ought to do this other than me. But I've never had that so far.
That's
I haven't
awesome.
had that yet. I'm a really, really relational person. So both of my answers are probably going to come the best and the worst on the relational side.
Makes
of things,
sense.
And so you see groups of people in these communities like make that turn, and you're like, okay, we're moving from negative or even neutrality toward, you feel that positive turn. That's exciting to me. I'm like, down deep, that's here we go. And so, I want the end results, but I get just as excited to watch somebody go, all right, they're turning the corner and here they come.
Right.
So I would say that's a huge part for me. And then some of the hardest parts are, again, relational kinds of things where you see communities that continue to struggle, or you hear individual stories of people in these communities who experience great loss or loss of life, accidents that take life, or health issues, disease, things like this. So I think because of that, what's in me, the relational component, the best and the worst is all going to be in that category.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had a partner in a country that, I don't know, maybe wasn't doing what they're supposed to do? It's because it's just so far away and you don't know them. They're not on your staff, where you had to keep them accountable or let them go? Or is it a pretty difficult process to get into partnership with you guys?
Yeah. So, the partnership thing really kind of tends to grow kind of naturally. We'll do exploration in a community, things like that. And we haven't started a new partnership in about 6 years formally.
Okay.
And part of that, again, is just kind of where the economy has been the last few years. But we've had a place where we had to part ways with the particular local people, the local leaders we were working with, and reestablish leadership with a different group.
Yeah.
In the same community. Yeah. And it just became necessary. One of those things where it was just an impasse that we had.
What was it called? I'm kidding.
Can't do that. I'm kidding.
I'm just joking.
I imagine that'd be really difficult.
That would be very difficult.
Because, they're, for some extent, you're the fundraising and the admin side of some of what they're doing. And you have to be able to keep them accountable, make sure you guys are being good stewards and who you're partnering with. That way you can report to your donors. And it's hard to keep them accountable because they don't work for you, and they're across seas, but it's also a balanced kind of relationship. But
they're all independently doing their own work, and we're partnering with them. And so it becomes a separation of the partnership.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be difficult.
That would be very difficult.
That's a rare event, but it has happened.
Well, and it sounds like, you're pretty picky about who you partner with. You haven't had one in 6 years, which means, you're content where you're at. You're not trying to just willy-nilly whoever would take your money. Whatever. It's great.
Yeah. Wow. So it's cool. Just the story that you shared about the kids in the Philippines who, end up going to university and becoming architects and engineers. And is that common? Like kids to kind of get out of that bubble and,
that's got to be so rewarding to hear too.
Oh, it's the best.
Washburn University, a proud sponsor of this podcast, wants to keep its homegrown talent here at home.
Graduates of Shawnee County high schools and homeschools are eligible for the Thrives Scholarship.
Other local graduates may qualify for the Promise Scholarship, meaning you could go to Washburn tuition free.
Learn more about these amazing opportunities at washburn.edu.
Washburn is just right.
Just for you.
I was over there a year and a half ago, and I knew these stories, but I got to meet one of the guys.
Oh, it's cool.
We got to walk over on the property that's right adjacent to where their homes are now. And the church is the center of that property, and people have built their homes kind of on the edge of the dump, but on the church property. They were welcome to build their homes there for shelter. And the other part of this property that's opened, and they had flags out, literally just like a construction zone you see here, and they were platting it out, and they were going to, hey, we can fit this many, and and you need to step back, and you're like, there it is. Wow. You see that, because that's long-term kind of solution.
Right.
So, but it takes years of investment to take somebody from 8 or 9 or 10, 12 years old to a place where they're educated and old enough really to engage with that kind of change. And so, we are seeing that. I mean, we see that in our other countries too. We've seen people become adults and stick around.
Wow. And like reinvest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is it, I'm sure it maybe depends on the nation that you're in, but is it common, like for a family in the sort of trash dump community, for their kids to be able to go to school? Is that normal? Like those kids generally are able to go to school pretty easily, or? It
depends. So one of the countries we work in, though the unnamed country, when
not the Philippines,
not the Philippines, for them, they do have access to education, but at the end of every grade, they test to go forward, and they leave behind the material from before. And so if a child's not doing well, they move on, and then that compounds into a problem. And by 4th grade or so, they quit going to school. And there's no mechanism there to say, no, you have to keep going.
Right.
And so the solution that this particular group does is they've started preschools, and they accelerate the kids in the dump community. So when they start 1st grade, they essentially are a year ahead of everybody.
Oh.
And so our partner there looked at that 12, 15 years ago and said, here's a solution, a very specific solution.
Right.
And it works.
Wow.
It absolutely. Because then they stay in, the school's there. It's accessible to a lot of them. Not totally, but to a lot of them. But it was just giving them the tool they needed to stay and not fall so far behind that they couldn't keep up.
And once they're in school and making their way comfortably through school, then university is a natural opportunity.
Yeah, it's accessible to some of them. I mean, there are times where we assist with, we have some people around here in the U.S. that sponsor kids in college, and will commit to paying for their 2 or 4 or whatever years of college to get them through.
Wow.
Because most of the time they don't have access to be able to do that.
Right.
But those are pretty easy things for me to talk about with people.
Oh, I imagine.
Sure.
Because,
do you want to send this kid from the trash dump to college? Yes, please. Take my money.
Yeah, and you think about college here, and it's it's quite expensive.
Right.
And you go, you can send them to college for $4,000 a year.
Wow.
And that covers everything. That covers their transportation and their education and their, and a lot of people will go, I can do $350 a month.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing for a few years. And so those are the kind of things, when you get those kids positioned, it becomes easier.
Your team, are you guys all based out of Topeka?
Yes.
So as far as fundraising goes, it's a little bit different than a local nonprofit ministry that maybe is, serving the Topeka area. Do you find, I guess a 2-part question, does that make it easier to fundraise because, you can go to other metro cities and, the cause is still the same and it can still rally behind it? Or does that make it more difficult because they don't really get to see the fruits of, their giving or your guys' labor because it's not stateside?
Sure. So I'm going to start off with, I'm still discovering that answer for me.
Yeah.
Brett, our founder, was a phenomenal fundraiser, and born and raised in Topeka, and so the bulk of our donor base is Topeka or very close by.
Sure.
Okay.
And we have some pockets around the country that are intense donor bases also, but Topeka's 80% of the donor base, that kind of a thing. And so it's hard in the sense that you don't see it's not like we're doing this or we're building this building or we're
It's not in a neighborhood here or something.
It's not kids at schools that they know.
No. Yeah. And so you have to be really good, I think, at communicating over distance. And, that's something that always changes, and we're relearning that all the time. How do you communicate that well? How do you talk about it? And I think what I found that in the little bit of time that I've been in the role I'm in is that if you communicate that really well, people are pretty motivated to be part of that.
Yeah.
The communication seems to be the thing.
That's cool.
And then they see it. they know the stories, they see videos, they see the plan, and they go, yeah, okay.
That's great.
But yeah.
Is there any, as far as fundraising to outside of Topeka, any goals there, or is that hard to do just because you're from here and fundraising so, maybe relational? Or is there a way that you guys can expand that?
Yeah, one of our goals, we started this last year and will continue for the next 2 or 3 years, is to expand our donor base geographically.
Yeah.
And, because of my age and having been in ministry so long, and I teach theology and ministry, so I have former students who are church leaders in different places around the country. I've started the process of reaching out to them in various places all over the country and saying, hey, would you let me come and just sit down and have coffee with you and a handful of friends and just tell you about it? And, so that's kind of where we are. It's a bit of a new phase for us right now, is to say we're going to intentionally target places at a distance from here.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like I have a very unique perspective, I feel like, with fundraising, because I was in ministry for several years where I had to fundraise for my salary and for what we were doing. I was working with Topeka Young Life. Did that for a little bit. If you're just getting into ministry and you're just starting fundraising, it's the worst thing in the world.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do. It's hard to ask people for money.
Especially if you're young.
Yep. And now on the flip side, now that I'm not in ministry, I get to have a lot of those conversations where someone's asking me for money. We're sitting down having coffee.
Right.
And so it's always, I really enjoy, especially the young guys who are young guys or girls are sitting down. I really enjoy, especially... It's funny. I always think before I take the meeting, there's a good chance I already know how much I'm giving if I can.
Right.
But so I really enjoy getting to sit down and be like, hey, that was awesome. You did a great job. Would love to support, would love to whatever. So that's funny. Is fundraising something that comes natural to you?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Yeah.
Does it come natural to anyone?
I think there's a few people out there that just have the personality
a few psychopaths.
for it. They're just great storytellers, and they're compelling. And that was Brett. That was the founding of the organization.
No natural fear of rejection.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. No, I don't think I'm a natural fundraiser at all. Yeah. I think it's something I'm currently learning. And my wife and I planted a new church in 1998 and stayed with it till 2016. So that was 18 years of our 21 years in ministry before doing these things. And, I didn't mind, talking about money and things like that in the church, but I never felt like I was really all that great at it. Yeah. And so moving into this role is, hopefully an age thing makes you feel a little different about those conversations. You kind of get to a point where like, I just need to ask, that kind of a thing. Yeah. But it's something I feel like I'm really having to learn how to do.
Yeah. I always tell young guys that when you're sitting down with someone, they love the Lord, there's a certain reality of they're giving a set amount no matter what. It's just kind of where they getting to give it to. And so, if they're given whatever it is, whatever they have on their heart, it's like, you just get to be an opportunity for them to be involved. Because guys like me, it's hard for me to do direct ministry. I can't make those calls. I don't have the time to, sit down with students and do this and do that, but I would love to support. How can I be involved in ministry, even if it's not my vocation?
Right.
So super cool.
Yeah. I actually went through the same thing. I raised support for myself for 10 years. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
What was where were you at before community?
So I worked with a campus ministry similar to Young Life named Called to Greatness.
Oh,
and did that for 10 years.
We have that in Manhattan.
I worked at the one in Manhattan for 7 or 8 years. And I did a lot of support raising. And while there were elements that I did really enjoy, I mostly hated it. And it's funny, I had some buddies who, like you're describing, were just so naturally gifted at it. And I remember there were some perspective shifts for me that were really, really helpful in the training process of kind of like what you're describing of like, hey, I'm not necessarily asking you just to give to me. I'm asking God to provide. I trust that God's called me into this. And so I'm trusting that God's going to provide. So I'm asking God, hey, you got me into this. So you're going to provide for this somehow. And now I'm just going and discovering who it is that God is going to prompt, which took a lot of, doesn't fully get rid of the rejection you feel when someone turns you down, but it takes a lot of pressure off, like, hey man, this isn't fully on me. And, while there's always things I can learn to get better, it might not be something I did wrong that is a reason they aren't doing this,
That's great.
It's not because I'm, a bad salesman or a storyteller or something like that. But, but man, it was just incredible the way that God provided and, consistent and miraculous ways, it's, and there's I remember one of the things they said in the training was like, hey man, if you are going to be able to sit down with somebody in ministry and ask someone to like surrender their entire life to Jesus, then surely you can ask somebody to give a little bit of money. Like, which of these is more intense of a commitment, But like emotionally, it doesn't feel like that.
I've never heard like that. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's in reality, it's true. I mean, as a Christian, that's what I believe. Like, man, I'm asking you to give your entire life and eternity to something.
Right.
And, hey man, carry your cross, surrender everything. Jesus on the throne. You're not. That's quite an ask.
Yeah.
Right.
It should be theoretically less of an ask to be like, hey man, would you want to give a few $100 a month to this?
Yeah.
But one feels more like icky if you're not thinking about it in that way.
Right.
Like, oh, that's like, it's bad to ask about and talk about money, but
and I think if you can shift it in your brain too, to like for Trash Mountain Project we're really asking for somebody else.
Right.
We genuinely are.
yeah,
Sure,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
And, we get to have our hands on those funds to help facilitate it, but really, and I think that makes it in some ways a lot easier.
Yeah.
To be able to say, when you're fundraising for your salary, if you can frame it in terms of, this is really so I can do ministry.
This is for
others.
Exactly.
That type of thing.
It is. There is something about that. I always wonder that too. Like, it does seem like it would reframe it a lot to be like, hey, I'm not even really asking for myself. This is for, these kids who live in a trash dump in Honduras.
Yeah. Right.
It's like that seems I'm not saying your job is easy in any way, but it does seem to take some of the burden off, in that way. That like, it's not just like, I'm not just asking for some commission for myself here. I'm asking for this kid, in Honduras,
Insert picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you try not to be manipulative.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
He hasn't had a decent meal in weeks because you won't think about this.
We definitely don't want to go there.
No, definitely not.
But it's that how do you tell this story honestly and truthfully?
Yeah.
And without like taking away the intensity of the story for what's real. Yeah.
I have a creative idea for your fundraising.
Okay, let's hear it.
This will be good.
You are a theological professor at Manhattan Christian College. Have you ever considered having students sign a contract so that they can pass your class? They're like, hey, when you become a pastor, you will give to Trash Mountain.
So I have taught Christian ethics before, and that alone prohibits me from even going there.
John, you're embarrassing me.
I'm just trying to think outside the box here.
Yeah, that's great. Don't.
Obviously, I'm joking.
Do we want to switch to some Topeka questions?
Sure. I'm curious.
I'm going to snag a drink here real quick.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. I'm curious, right before we do that, what's it like teaching theology at a university level? Just shifting gears away from Trash Mountain. And what do you love about that?
I love how practical theology can be if you think about it that way. For me, I don't want to just approach theology and say, here are the things you should believe. And while there's an element of that in theology, this is what Scripture reveals, this is what life reveals, all these kinds of things. I'm constantly going back to like, this has to matter.
Right.
And so I think that's what I love about theology. And for me, when I'm able to say, hey, here's conceptually this idea, and this is where it has hands and feet, theology gets a lot easier. And so I love teaching theology.
That's cool.
I genuinely do. I mean, I teach other classes too. I teach pastoral ministry and some other things like that, but I tend to really go back to those. I teach a gospel class, and man, that's rich stuff.
Yeah,
if you're really looking at it, saying, okay, what's Jesus actually saying here?
Wow.
And what are the implications of what he's saying and doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is there anything in addition to the Gospels that you teach in terms of theology? What kinds of theology?
I teach a course called Practical Theology, which is church-oriented, all the stuff related to the life and community of the church.
Like how what you believe translates into the way that you're doing church and stuff.
Living it out individually, corporately, the aspects of what we think of with, communion and baptism. And,
Sure.
And, just leadership in the church and sanctification and justification and all of these things, and just trying to really pull all this together and say, what does it look like to live in this in community? I teach a class on Christian theology through the centuries. I co-teach with another professor. And so we go back and look at doctrines from their origin point and say, how do we get to Trinity? Stuff like that, walk through those kinds of ideas. Do
you have a favorite and least favorite church father?
Basil
is your favorite.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hands down. So Basil was in what we would now consider like modern day Syria.
Is he the one who like discipled Augustine?
No. Basil is part of what's, I'm getting an eye over here. Basil was part of what's known as the Cappadocian Fathers.
Okay.
So there were 3 of them, 2 Gregories and a Basil.
Okay.
And what I love about Basil ties in with what I do at Trash Mountain Project. He was the guy who was super practical, and he took his money and convinced people to live generously with each other.
Wow.
And it sustained for a century. And all things eventually die out. But long after he was gone, this imprint that he had made on that culture that he was in, the community he was in, and he's highly regarded by many.
That's cool.
Through the centuries. Yeah.
Do you have a least favorite?
No. I don't know enough about the church fathers to have a least favorite.
The guy that Santa slapped at the...
I don't know this story.
Oh, you don't know the story?
No.
Don't look at me like I know the story.
So Saint Nicholas, who was like an actual guy, he was like a bishop in whatever region that he was in, and was at. I'm so fuzzy on the exact details, but like he was at one of the councils, so maybe like Nicaea or something like that, and whoever the like heretic of the day was, that was like. Arius. I think it's
I love
Arius.
that you say that, the heretic of the day. That's
great. I mean, in every like era, there's like a heresy the church is fighting. So like, I think it was Arius. Arius was like, Arianism was like, sweeping through the church, and they're really fighting against this heretical thing that was, really bad or whatever. And I think Arius's thing was that he was really creative, and he would come up with these songs for his basically heretical ideas, and they would like get stuck in people's brains. So like normal people started getting swept over to his ideas because he had these catchy songs. And so Saint Nicholas at one of these councils is debating with Arius, and Arius is basically just kind of flying off the handle. Nicholas gets so mad, he slaps him. Saint Nicholas, who becomes Santa Claus, basically, and gets slapped. And then he gets his titles like stripped. They're like, hey man, bishops can't be like slapping people. You can't be a bishop anymore. And he was eventually like sainted or whatever. But yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. So there's like memes like in theology circles about like, Santa doing what he does best, giving gifts and slapping heretics or something.
Yeah, John, I can promise you I've never heard that story before.
Yeah. So anyway, I knew that I was going to be outside the reach, but it was just something I was curious about.
Cool.
Anyway, we can shift.
Yeah, let's shift to Topeka. Okay. So when did you move to Topeka?
So I still live in Manhattan. And so, yeah, So I'm in Topeka at least once or twice a week, if not more.
Yeah.
So much of what we can do remotely.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our work, so I'm not in Topeka every day, but often. But no, I actually live in Manhattan.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll get them. One day we'll get them to Topeka.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Cool.
It is hard when maybe half your job is,
right.
in Manhattan.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're in Topeka enough, though, to have opinions about some things in Topeka.
I have some opinions.
Like you eat at restaurants in Topeka sometimes?
I do.
Okay. So do you have a favorite local Topeka restaurant?
El Mezcal.
That's a great answer.
That is a great answer.
Just solid.
That's a local answer. That's an answer someone in Topeka might get.
I'll be honest.
Well, I have family that lives here, and so I'm in Topeka a lot.
Yeah.
There's nothing that hits like El Mezcal. I go there. I got my guy Danny. He always dabs me up when I walk in.
There you go.
And the best part about it, and I can say this on air, he always gives me free queso.
Whoa.
It's awesome.
You might have just got Danny messed up with his job.
I know.
Man.
So you're telling us we should go ask for Danny and
you should
ask for the Justin special.
I didn't know how that worked. Like we'd always just show up and like they'd whoever's with us, whoever serves us. Then Danny pulled me aside one day. He goes, "You need to ask for me when you walk in." I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Okay."
Was he saying that you could just now tell everyone they should do that now?
Yeah, everyone asks for Danny.
Everyone in Topeka,
unless I'm there.
There you go.
Cool.
Are you a coffee guy?
I am.
Favorite coffee place?
Okay, this one's a hard one because because part of what I do is meet with people. I meet at a lot of coffee places.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The one I find myself suggesting if they don't have one necessarily is Blackbird.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I heard they have
a little 10th engaged.
I don't go to Blackbird
action.
enough, but I've heard they have great lunch,
Never
great
had it.
sandwiches.
They have great pastries too. They're like cinnamon rolls and banana bread and stuff. Ooh,
Yeah,
it's fire.
that's probably part of the appeal for me.
Yeah.
is that, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's so good.
Driving in, did you hit any potholes?
In Topeka or
Yeah.
outside of? I mean, how harsh? do you
Comment on both. Is Topeka worse than Manhattan?
No. I would say it's the same.
Okay.
Okay, a little
Yeah.
outsider.
Little in. Yeah,
this
that's
is
good
helpful.
to know.
This is,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
Topeka, you don't have it as bad as you think.
Yeah, suck it
Yeah,
up.
well-
It's
Stop
part of
complaining.
life.
Okay, so here's the deal about Manhattan is they're always working on the roads. And because we have 20,000 college students there during the school year, they tend to destroy the roads in the summer.
Yeah.
And so you've got cones everywhere and all this kind of stuff. So they work really hard at trying to make the roads nice, but they're typical. They're typical.
I bet Manhattan's got its own beef with construction, and especially like for game days. I bet
Yeah.
it gets very busy.
And there are those main thoroughfares that are really nice.
Yeah.
They've done a lot with Kimball up around the stadium and those areas where they've improved those a ton.
Yeah.
Dude, I
the
was
last
in
5
Manhattan
years.
like a couple weeks ago, and I was shocked by all the things that, I mean, I lived there for like 7 or 8 years, and I was like, man, so much of this is brand new, especially up by the stadium. Like that whole area
All of that area
incredible.
has been transformed.
It's wild.
It really has, yeah.
Yeah.
I live on the east edge of K-State, a few blocks on a very old road in a very old neighborhood. My road's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of. But probably around town, most of them are pretty good.
Yeah.
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 Cool. Well, where can people find you or Trash Mountain at if they want to, I guess, follow on social media?
Yeah.
Or when is your spoken event? How could people get involved? Or what does that look like?
Our spoken event is typically the first weekend in October. We don't have that 100%, but
Sure.
that's the typical date. So early October, we'll find a venue here. We've kind of gone back and forth between having like a big full banquet and a dessert thing.
Sure.
And this last year it was all just digital. We didn't actually, but we're going back to the full, like event.
Great.
This year. So it should be first weekend in October. Trashmountain.com would be the spot. We
Yeah.
really keep that up, and a lot of clarity on who we are and what we do and all the connections and all the communication. I think we have a pretty good social media presence.
Yeah.
We have somebody that works really hard at that. And I think you can find us on just about any social media platform there.
For the spoken event in particular, is that something, if there's a listener who wants to attend but doesn't know you or doesn't have any connections, is that something they can like register for online? Do they need to be invited somehow? How could someone?
Oh, it is open. We would love for people to come. We have that event gets sponsored, so it's a no-cost event for
That's
people
awesome.
to come to. They can just come, have a great meal. It's, we kind of do our annual report. This is how things are going, project forward a little bit and go, hey, this is what we're like genuinely looking forward to in the next year,
Yeah,
to 5
love that.
years, this kind of a thing. But no, that is an open door. We would
Awesome.
absolutely love to have people. Probably the best way on that, here in a couple of months, you'll start seeing stuff on our website.
Perfect.
And then, once you do that, then you'll start seeing all the social
you'll start
media
seeing all the
feeds
stuff, yeah.
and everything like that too. But yeah, you'll hear in a couple of months that should be evident.
That's awesome.
Dave, thanks for your time, man. This has been
Thank
awesome.
you. It's
Appreciate
been
you
great.
joining
I
us.
Appreciate you having me.
Ambrose of Milan is the person I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, Ambrose.
Boom. That was my theology teacher would be mad if I didn't just, correct
Clear
myself
the air
there.
there.
So, boom. Anyway,
And that's the way
thanks
to
for
end an
having
episode.
coming on, man.